This is Unit 6 for college algebra, models in algebra. We want to talk about linear equations. We will recognize linear equations, solve and graph linear equations, and then use slope. So, a linear equation in two variables is an equation that can be written in the form ax plus by equals c, where a, b, and c are numbers. A and b are both not zero. This form is called standard form. Compare that with something like slope-intercept form, in which you would have y equals mx plus b. All right, each of those are linear equations. It's just that we have a certain form, standard form. So rewrite something that's in slope-intercept form and change it to standard form. Well, we want the x and the y to be on one side of the equation. And so I can take this 10/3 x and subtract it, and then get it on the other side. So now I have y minus 10/3 x equals 5. Now this is actually in standard form, where the coefficient for the y is 1. We could multiply everything by 3 and get rid of that fraction. And that would be even another way to write it. So 3y minus 10x equals 15. We can rewrite equations like we just did in equivalent form. Officially, we now say that we can add, subtract, multiply, or divide on both sides. Chances are you've been doing this before, but we're actually writing it down and saying, okay, we can write equivalent fractions, add, subtract, multiply, divide both sides, and that allows us to solve equations and get one variable by itself. Now, I will mention a note here that we want to handle fractions by multiplying by a common denominator. Here's an example. Solve 2/3 x equals 1/2 x plus 2. A common denominator of 3 and 2 is 6. And so if I multiply the entire equation by 6, it should get rid of those fractions. My next step will be to write 6 times 2 is 12, divided by 3 is 4. Distribute the 6 on the other side, so 6 times 1/2 is 3, and then 2 times 6 is 12. Now the equation becomes much easier, no fractions in it. So what we did was remove the fractions by multiplying by a common denominator. It's just a technique. X equals 12. Let's apply that in different situations. So example, solve 5x plus 7 equals 3/4 x minus 9. There's only one fraction here. So if I multiply everything by 4, which is the common denominator, it should get rid of the fraction for me. I have to distribute to everything. 4 times 5 is 20. 4 times 7 is 28. 3/4 times 4 is 3. And 9 times 4 is 36. Now let's add, subtract, multiply, or divide on both sides. Let's do minus 3x to both sides. Don't forget to bring down the negative. Next step, let's subtract 28. This is going to be negative 64, and then divide by 17. That fraction looks like it cannot be reduced, so our answer is negative 64 over 17. Another, 1/2 times the quantity of y minus 4 equals 18 minus 6 times the quantity of y minus 4. Let's try the same thing here. Why don't we get rid of the fraction? Now I could distribute the 1/2, but instead I'm going to multiply everything by 2. So 2 times 1/2 is just 1, and this becomes y minus 4. 18 times 2 is 36. And it's important to note that this gets distributed only to the 6, because that's a single term right there. 6 times the quantity. Minus 12, and then y minus 4. All right, now I will distribute the 12. It's going to be plus 48. Subtract y from both sides. And then I will also combine like terms here. 36 plus 48, which is going to be 84. And now I will subtract 84. Negative 88 equals negative 13y. And finally, divide by negative 13. Two negatives equal a positive, so 88 over 13. Example 2, a word problem. Suppose that a store has 2 jet ski rental plans. In Plan A, the customer pays a base fee of $35 plus $12.50 per hour. Plan B includes a base fee of $22.50 plus $15 per hour. For what number of hours do plans A and B charge the same amount? The first thing we want to do is write down 2 different equations. So for Plan A, there is a cost which is equal to $35 plus $12.50 per hour. So notice that I'm choosing variables that are going to make sense to me. Cost is C, H is hours. For Plan B, the cost is going to be a flat rate of $22.50 plus $15 per hour. So for what number of hours would they charge the same amount? Charging the same amount means the cost is the same. So let's set them equal to each other and write 35 plus 12.5 H equals 22.5 plus 15 H. All right, we're going to solve this. We're going to subtract 12.5 H. $35 equals 22.5 plus 2.5 H. Our next step is going to be to subtract 22.5 from both sides. 12.5 equals 2.5 H. Divide on both sides. And you get an answer of H equals 5. So what this means is You can ride the jet ski for 5 hours and it would not matter which plan you would choose. If it was less than 5 hours, I think that probably plan B would be the better choice. Another example, income tax. According to some tax laws, suppose that a wage earner must pay $1,380 plus 22% of income over $8,000. Now, this is a sort of a complex sentence, so we have to be able to break this down and write it as an equation. The taxes a wage earner pays is equal to, so that's must pay, a flat rate of $1,380 plus. The first thing we have to recognize is 22%. We have to be able to write that as a decimal. So I'm going to write that as 0.22 of income over $8,000. This is the hard part. So this is actually a quantity. And anytime you hear the word quantity, you have to think parentheses of income over $8,000. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract $8,000. Because think about it. If my income was $10,000, the income over $8,000 would be $2,000. That's $10,000 minus $8,000. So by that logic, I have to subtract $8,000 from my income. Now that you have the equation, if a person pays $13,260 in taxes, model the situation, and then determine the income that this person has. Pause the video, try the problem, and see if you can figure it out. All right, $13,260 in taxes. If you went ahead and solved that, you should have gotten an answer that I is equal to 62,000. The next example, all we're going to do is write out an equation. So if it costs 40 cents per day to rent a car plus 25 cents per mile, write an equation to describe the rental agreement. Again, pause the video, try it on your own, and then we'll go over it. All right, so if it costs 40 cents or $40 per day, we're going to say that the total cost is going to be equal to $40 plus 0.25 m. And we're finished. We did not have to solve anything. All we had to do was write a linear equation. Converting temperatures. The following equation converts temperatures in degrees Celsius to degrees Fahrenheit. So if I want to convert 70 degrees Fahrenheit to Celsius, I'm going to plug in 70 into F. I'm going to solve this by subtracting 32. And I'm going to write 38 equals 9/5 C. And at this point, there's two ways that you can handle this fraction. The first would be dividing by 9/5. And that's also the same as multiplying by 5/9 because of the reciprocal. Or you can do it piece by piece and multiply by 5 to get rid of the denominator. So 190 equals 9C, and then divide by 9. So C equals 190 over 9. That's going to turn out to be, in decimal form, 21.1 degrees Celsius. We can go the other way, convert 10 degrees Celsius to Fahrenheit. So let's plug it in for C. F equals 9/5 times 10 plus 32, and that should give us an answer of 18 plus 32, which is 50 degrees. Note that we can solve for C and make a direct equation for Celsius. So see if you can solve the equation for C. Once again, pause the video and try and get C by itself. All right, here we go. The first thing I'm going to do is subtract 32 from both sides. Notice that the f and the minus 32 have to stay separate because one is a number and one is a variable. And then in this case, suppose that I multiply by the reciprocal of 9/5, which is 5/9. And now I have to actually work with the fraction. So I have to distribute the 5/9, and that's going to become 5/9 f minus 32 times 5, which is 160 over 9, equals C. And we're finished. The C is by itself. Please comment on this video in order to earn some credit, and then have a nice day.